Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Leo, and I will be your humble host today for another little tale from hillbilly country. Today I am in West Williamson at Victoria Courts. Obviously, it's a housing project that was built in 1940 through 41, and I'm pretty familiar with this. I can remember running around here a little bit with some friends, you know, when I was younger. You know, all around through here's mountains, and this ain't too far. It's a little subdivision from Williamson. It's called West Williamson. So, you know, had friends down this way. Swimming pool is over that way, and used to come down here quite a bit. To be honest, I didn't know the building. I didn't know that the place was that old. I've always assumed 60s, 70s, something like that. But we have a story for you guys today that I think probably a lot of you, if you ain't sitting down, you might want to hear this one. It goes back a little ways to just after when this place was constructed. And here I'll just kind of touch base right here real quick. Victoria Court housing project built by the Housing Authority of the City of Williamson with the assistance of the United States Housing Authority. Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States of America. Imagine that. John M. Carmody, Nathan Strauss, Administration, Housing Authority, and some board members and executives. And this was erected in 40 and 41. So this was put up apparently when the buildings were built. Anyway, the story we have to tell you, we have to go back a little bit. You know, we're going to have to go back to yesteryear. It's July 14th in 1945. It's a hot summer day here in the small coal mining town of Williamson, West Virginia. A family, much like yours or mine, gathered together to mark a special occasion. It was Claude Stollings' birthday. Clyde's actual birth date was July 12th. I'm not sure if they celebrated late, you know, maybe because it was prettier weather, or who knows. But they may have already celebrated, who knows. Clyde and Natty Leona Stollings, who was born a Maynard, had 2 children at the time. Kitty was 3 and Vera was 9. Nanny left them alone for a brief period of time while she ran to the store. She returned about 6 o'clock, but the apartment looked empty. Panic began to set in as she searched every corner of their home here in Victoria Courts, apartment 63, right in the center of your screen, right down that way. She quickly reached out to the neighbors, igniting a wave of concern. Everyone, including the neighborhood kids, joined in the frantic search. Unfortunately, time was ticking, and 2 hours had passed at this point. One of the searchers asked her, could they have fallen asleep somewhere hidden? That question sparked a thought in Nanny. The nook under the stairs. It was a small space filled with jackets and forgotten items. So she ran into the house. After a few minutes, she came back out to the doorway, collapsing at the entrance. She began to call for help. In shock and hysterics, she had just located her children under the stairs. The investigation later found that the 2 little girls were playing with the candles from the birthday cake and wanted someplace dark. So they took them under the staircase in that little nook. Somehow they had accidentally lit some article of clothing on fire, which caused smoke inside the little nook. Confused in the dark and in the smoke, they couldn't find the latch to get back out and passed away from smoke inhalation. The fire died out before it burned the bodies, but the death certificates do mention some burns. They had them buried in a heartbreaking double ceremony. Their headstones and their parents' headstones have not been documented and were not on Find a Grave. Their story existed in old articles and in pieces scattered here and there until today. And we're going to move right here in a second to another spot to tell you the rest of this story. The rest of it needs to be told somewhere else. You'll see why when we get there. But you know, it's one of those things. I can remember children, you know how children are. I can remember once when I was little, probably 3-4 years old, very, very, very young. It's one of my first memories. It's at Grandma's house, and Grandma, I don't remember where my grandfather was, but Grandma wanted us to take a nap, my sister and I. So you know how that goes. Kids don't want to take a nap. They make you lay down. You lay down. And you know how I am now. Imagine 3 or 4 year old Leo trying to make him lay down. I bet it was like trying to grab a tornado or something. Anyhow, they all go to sleep. They both go to sleep, and I laid down, pretended to go to sleep. I got back up and was playing with matches. I set the kitchen garbage on fire. I set the trash on fire in the kitchen. And they just happened to wake up. My grandma happened to wake up and ran in there and put the kitchen trash fire out. I could have killed myself, my sister, and my grandmother. You know, just a 3-year-old kid goofing off playing. So I can see how stuff like that could happen. You know, I can understand how something like that could happen. But anyhow, we're going to head out here and head on up to this other location that I mentioned. And we'll tell you the rest of the story when we get there. Now, some of you, a couple of you, may recognize this spot right here. This is the Fairview Cemetery in Williamson, sometimes called the Williamson City Cemetery. We've done a few stories here. The graveyard itself is a bit of an enigma. There's the ones that are posted, the ones that are marked are known. The rest, unfortunately, the 77 flood, the 1977 flood, it got the city's, you know, records and the church's records as well. So a lot of these graves up here are lost to time. So luckily, a friend of the channel named Brandon Wolford was taking a walk one day here last summer and came across some old graves. He got curious and looked them up, which led him to this story. So he sent it to us. Now we can give this family the attention they deserve and tell their story to a modern world in a modern way while preserving their story forever. Of course, they're all gone now, but somehow when you tell these old stories, it sort of feels like you get to know them a little bit, and you can almost see and touch them. And it sort of brings to mind the old saying, the old tales about the thin veil between life and death that people talk about. To be honest, we get it. There are many lessons to be learned from the people of the past, with amazing untold stories if you just listen to them. I also wanted to check if their parents are here near them, though they're listed as being somewhere else. We found that Nanny, their mother, died at 78 and Clyde died at 70. The newspapers said they only had 2 children, but our search turned up 5, including Jack and a Benny, who were born before Kitty and Vera. We also found a 1-year-old that they lost in 1940 named Clydine, and she's listed as being here as well. So today we are going to see exactly what we can uncover about the final resting place of the Stollings family, who probably, in all honesty guys, saw more grief in that 1 minute than some of us will in a whole lifetime. As always, the information we uncover through this investigation and this story will be updated on various databases as needed. Their place in history and their location information for future family members and their story is now preserved as long as humans exist. As long as the earth doesn't get hit by a meteor or we don't blow ourselves up in World War III, their story has now been reassembled and told in a digital form. And if you're watching this, their story also lives on in your memory. Now, I walked around here for a solid close to an hour. I don't want to say a whole hour, close to an hour. I went all the way up through there, down over the hill here, trying to find these graves. It took almost an hour to find them, but I found them. Right here, guys, are Kitty and Vera Stollings. And there is Clydine. Little kids just playing with some candles. How many of us have done that when we were little? How many of us have played with matches when we were kids? You know? I certainly did. I was a little bit of a firebug. It's a shame though, isn't it? You know, I mentioned once before in another video, it's been probably about a year ago since I mentioned this. The thing about, and this is a little something for all of you young folks out there. When you're 5 years old, think back to when you were 5. You thought you knew everything, didn't you? You knew everything that you needed to know. And you had control of the situation, didn't you? When you got 10 years old, you realized that 5-year-old you was an idiot. Very naive, didn't know nothing, and thought he knew everything. When you get 15, you realize that 10-year-old you was the same thing. And you'll find that this pattern repeats itself about every 5 years for the rest of your life. You'll realize that the younger you wasn't quite as smart as you thought you were. You know, it's just a shame, you know, just for a moment, you know, she went to the store, and just for a moment is all it takes sometimes. Everyone in here, every one of these people has a story, and it's like a book that you can open up and read. Your story and my story, we can't do that because it's not a completed story yet. We're still writing that story. But for these people, the story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Ours just has a beginning and a middle so far. Kind of brings home the importance of, I mean, I know a lot of the stuff. I know that this is pointless, that in a way it's pointless. You can't bring the children back. I get that. I know that. But for a moment, we can bring their memory back, and we can update all the information, and we can do what we can, you know, for future generations, for family, that may want to come and visit, or anybody that just wanted to come out, find the kids and lay some flowers. Simple as that. But I'm gonna go ahead here before I leave. I'll straighten it up a little bit. Anyway guys, like I said, we just thought we would bring you guys out here and document this old story and tell a story that should be told, that deserves to be told. It should be remembered, and now it is forever. Anyway guys, from the heart of hillbilly country in Williamson, West Virginia, this is Leo with the Hillbilly Files. We'll see you guys later.